Hey, hey, hey! How are we, beautiful people? Wow. I know that you're not here for me, you're here for James. We love James. Coffee and a case note. He will be joining us shortly, and it's gonna be sick. It's gonna be absolutely sick. How's everyone's day been? I do crime and family. James does commercial litigation. Candice, great to see you. Kalei. James is coffee and a case note. Probably the most articulate lawyer on TikTok. Mr. Lolly, great to see you. I'm having a good day, man. To be honest, everyone, I'm in very good spirits. I've just settled a matter that I've been working on for 3 years for a sultan's ransom, and my client is walking away a happy woman after a really difficult case. Mr. Lolly, my pleasure, man. You're very welcome. Very welcome, Mark. Yeah. Oh, you guys are kind. Gussick, good to see you. Does Lloyd pay well? Some days it does, and some days it doesn't. Thank you, Marshy, and thank you for your amazing idea. I will film it in a bit. Come on in, guys. Throw in some likes. I'll invite Coffee and a case note. Invite him. The one, the only James Dapperchi, Coffee and a note. He's connecting. How good is this?
It's the future. Jahan, how are you?
I'm well. It's you're real. It's good to see you, James. How are you?
Jahan, still kicking. I should say the same about you. Someone was saying to me today that COVID was just a conspiracy and that the law didn't really apply. And it sounded very convincing. So I don't know what to say about it.
I don't know about you, but I have had the same conversation probably 40 times a day where I have to explain the Biosecurity Act is about totally something else. The Constitution, it's the public health orders don't challenge them. It's got nothing to do with anything. It's just so over and over again. But firstly, I'm welcome. It's so good to see you.
Thank you.
Now, is this on yours or is this on mine, or do I come to you? How does it work, guys? If anyone's,
I think we're doing it. I think we're doing it, aren't we? We're here. It's happening.
We're here. It's happening.
Yeah,
guys,
I'm knocking over Lego.
I don't know if you're on my channel or you're on your channel, but it's on my channel. Okay. Well,
yeah, I'm on yours.
Follow James. James is Coffee and a Case Note. Now, what James does is he takes complicated commercial litigation cases, breaks them down into very easy chunks, makes commercial litigation understandable, which is amazing because I can't do it, and I admire that you can. It's super complicated. My cases are very simple. Were they in the bank or weren't they? Did they import the heroin or didn't they? It's your stuff where it's like a builder did this, and then he made this trust, and this happened, and all this other cool shit happened. Where did you get the idea for Coffee and a Case Note? Can we start with that?
Yeah. Jahan, so thanks. If I can start with thanks, that's so generous. Thank you. Look, we'll get to diving in deeply to the compliments. If I can say, to the extent that I've managed to do anything on socials, like I think I got to bow down to the king now. So if there's a passing of the torch or whatever, like you're on it, and it's very intimidating and impressive. But I do try to do my bit. So the idea came from essentially I was like, look, law firms like case notes on their websites. People like videos. I think I can probably do a reasonably legally rigorous but interpersonally approachable case note video. And from there, I just started messing about. It was sort of like a LinkedIn project that then became a YouTube podcast, Instagram thing that just sort of went around the place. I've been on TikTok 2.5 years now, and you've just eclipsed me in follow count, Jahan, in a few months, and so it's a long grind as a project, but it's good fun, and I really appreciate the kind compliment. They're decisions I enjoy talking about, and it means a lot to hear from smart experts who are engaged in the field like you that there's value there. So it means a lot to me to hear that. I really appreciate it.
There is enormous value, James. I think that it might be worthwhile explaining, I guess, to some of the people listening that James and I are both litigators, which means we deal with disputes that go to a third party. Think of like a mediator, arbitrator, or judge. James is a commercial litigator, and he's in a division of the court called the equity division. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, thanks. So the way I describe my area of practice is that I argue about companies and businesses, and corporate law isn't just big end of town, cocaine off the toilet bowl, ritzy suits type big end of
Likewise.
town. Yeah, look, often, often it's it's the company that owns a few butcher shops. It's the company that operates a concreting firm. It's a company that might be a family trustee for a few people, and so sometimes those companies bump into problems. And that's basically my business model is sometimes those companies bump into problems. And so what I try to do online, and if anyone's interested, my TikTok page, I try to do it, and I have to bow down to the king again. I do not do communicating about my practice anywhere near as effectively and clearly and brilliantly and entertainingly as you do,
No, very kind.
And accurate. But I sort of try to sketch out facts where you'll have a family company and mum might die, and so mum's executor might have some problems getting the shares off the misbehaving son, or there might be a board that operates a company of something and the directors don't get along. And so the questions I try to answer are trying to give people access to these weird bits of the law that generally are just for old, rich, white guys. And I'm trying to democratize that a little bit because small and medium-sized business often don't get access to the sort of knowledge I have in my head. And Jahan, like, if I can spin it back to you, I think what you and I would both be proud of is the access to justice element.
Absolutely.
And I think that there are some really good access to justice resources for things like tenancy disputes and for things like actually arts law, so things like copyright. But I think in your space for practice like crim and admin law, in my space for that sort of small, medium-sized business disputes, there's just nothing. And so what I try to do and what I see you do so effectively is to try to be as generous as we can, as you can, as I can, in trying to get what's out of our heads into the public to try to help the people we look to serve.
I agree with you fully. And for everyone who goes, oh, Jahan's doing this and that, I remember seeing James, because you did some work with somebody I know quite well from law school, Bianca, years ago. I know Bianca really well.
Yeah, Bianca Lyman.
Yeah.
No way,
so
Jahan.
I know her really, really well. And I remember watching your videos on LinkedIn, and what I really liked, because I did very poorly in commercial litigation, you have to have the ability to understand it and then communicate it. And that's what James does really well. And I agree with you fully. The doing of these videos, one, I'll talk about the law anyway, and everyone in my life is sick of hearing it. So having like a channel where I can talk about it and people are not sick of it is really refreshing. Like, I don't know if that happens to you. Like, I tell my partner, she's like, I don't care, Jahan. Like, I understand what you do. I don't want to hear another story. Are you in the same boat?
Yeah, identical. The way it's been summarized for me is like, oh yeah, James, he look, he sort of argues about words and what words mean. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Exactly. Yeah. What does a surgeon do? He cuts stuff up.
Yeah.
And
so it works well.
But I love talking about it.
Yeah, and I think that there's also a degree of infectiousness about the enthusiasm. So if we talk about why do I follow Jahan on TikTok, and why do I gobble, be like, yes, it's not merely an information dump, right? It's not merely I'm being educated, I'm learning a lesson. It is the infectiousness of the enthusiasm that I think you as a communicator in a very direct way exude. So you're in there being like, oh yeah, Jahan's talking about fuck this guy who doesn't understand public health orders. I'm like, great. I also don't understand public health orders.
You're very kind. You're very, and I feel the same way. And I think that for everyone watching this, I am so happy to educate you about your rights for a couple of reasons. One, if you exercise your rights, you won't lose them. And I always hold in the back of my head this fear that because we don't exercise our rights, they go away. And I've had a few clients who've come and said, listen, it's good for business. Obviously, it's good for business in a kind of roundabout way, in that people see you online, they think that you know what you're talking about. But it's taking this really scary, esoteric thing, because you've got to be perfectly honest. James and I are not your average lawyer. The average lawyer is actually quite bad at communicating simply these abstract concepts. They're very good at entertaining the ideas. They're very good at acting on them. But
My
usually,
opponents aren't, but Jahan, that's another point. But I agree with where you're going.
yeah, but I mean, they get it, but they're not good
Yeah.
at explaining it. And that's a real problem because I really want to make it clear that, and what James does really well is he shows you that it's not as complicated as they make it out to be, but also the risk to that, and that's something I'm seeing, is it's not as simple as we make it seem either. Like there's a level between, and it's kind of like, this is like how it's sort, like, you know, this is how a picture should look. Painting a picture is different. Is that your experience as well?
It is, although if I can add a brag, and I think you're someone who could empathize with this brag, and I do like dunking on my opponents a little bit more than I sometimes do. There's a degree that where I say, if you can't simply explain a concept, then you haven't really mastered it. So if you need 3,000 words to summarize a case, great. It probably means that you haven't really got to the crux of what's being discussed. And so, Jahan, when I see you go in on, I think it was Aussie Painter Pride, who I then wedded. I just had to gobble that entire exchange. There's a generosity and humility that you and people who communicate like you, and I try to be someone like that, have in trying to say, I know you and you broadly have limited time, and a judge has limited time, is what's in my mind. And so the question is, how am I going to most efficiently use that very precious resource of a judge's attention span? And so what I find is that if I've refined my communication skills where I can get down, if I can get to the heart quickly, then that actually gives me more space to go make another argument, or to go, prepare for a reply, or to have more space to then press my client's interest. I suspect it's a benefit you would see yourself.
Absolutely. I think that one of the skills that you should, I mean, if you're going to practice as a lawyer, one of the things I think lawyers need to be is articulate. And I think that that's something that it's glossed over. And I could spend hours talking about the state of legal education and the state of the education system in general. But let's not deny that there is something that needs to be said for a level of sophistication in the way that you speak, and an ability to express what's going on in your head, what's going on in your heart, and what's going on in the law effectively. And I'm exactly like you. I'm in a local court where there's 65 matters on the list. There's a frazzled magistrate who's got probably enough patience for 4 cases. And it's not my time. I mean, it's not my time to sing chapter on verse in every single thing. You've got about 3 minutes to really humanize your client, show the magistrate that you know what you're talking about, and then when they ask you a few questions, answer articulately. And that's kind of the value of my jurisdiction, is its quantity. You get good at it because it happens over and over again. Are you primarily in the Supremo? You're in the
Supremo. So I was thinking about the other day, I've been to about 15, 20 final hearings.
Wow.
If that, in like 13 years. So there's a degree where we're all keyed up with nowhere to go. Like, I've been to 2 hearings this year. There'll probably be 3. And so the analogy that I used to have is like the very impressive car or whatever that's left in the garage. You're like, come on, like, let's, like, ooh. And so it means that every appearance or every little motion you run, well, I almost always brief counsel. I brief counsel 95% of the time or more. But every whisper of advocacy you get to do, you're on your feet for an hour or two being like, yeah, I'm doing. And so there's a degree where I feel like I often need to explain of like, hey, I'm not the guy standing up with a wig on, the old white guy standing with a wig on. I'm the old white guy who's sitting down, right, like jotting notes and flipping through a folder. But if I can agree with you and progress that other point you made so well about being articulate, I agree. And I also say that it's easy to confuse articulate with wordy. There are all sorts of long words you and I could conjure up. And there is a degree where being articulate is trying to do the opposite. It's trying to use the fewest syllables you can to nonetheless communicate your fairly complex idea. And I find that the fact that someone who can sit down and talk to me about cause of action estoppel versus issue estoppel versus Anshan estoppel, and talk about finality of litigation estoppels generally, is going to do a better job if they can speak to me in plain language, and probably understands it better if they can speak to me in plain language than if they have to devolve into a lot of jargon that is almost deliberately meant to, I said long words, I was about to say obfuscate.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
always
you're gonna
deliberately meant to blur what's going on.
No, I hear you. And by the way, guys, if you're watching this, please keep throwing in likes and following us.
Oh yeah,
you got to say it. Call to action, man. It's marketing
Yeah.
101.
Well, no, I'm actually really down to get a lesson. I've got to say, like, I mean
Call
it
to
when I say
action.
I'm in the presence
Call
of
to-
King.
The great thing about TikTok is that the reach is phenomenal, and you just keep throwing things at the wall, some things stick, and that's what I really like about it.
Okay.
And what I think is really cool is it's never the piece you think. Like, in my mind, that thing with Aussie Painter Pride, I thought that was the cleverest thing I've ever done. I was all day proud
loved
of
it.
myself,
Yeah.
and like no one cared. Like, it was just for me. Whereas I did like a stupid video about something else, and it got so much. You just can't guess. So you try new stuff, and it doesn't punish you. Whereas other channels like Instagram and LinkedIn, if you do anything outside of your lane, sorry, that's Jahan does not produce that type of content. So thanks for trying. Bang, we'll punish you. Whereas TikTok goes, we don't care. Just throw stuff, and we'll let the world decide.
It's like, it's funny, right? There's a degree of heartbreak. Like, so, what almost everyone here will not be aware of is that this project, Coffee and a Case Note, evolved from me sitting down, having a coffee, and giving a case note or summarizing a court decision. And I recently did my accidentally longest one ever. That was like 13 minutes of me like staring down the barrel, coming to grips with like 600 paragraphs of this Victorian Superior Court decision about this really complex corporate oppression, this group of companies as director of some of them and not director of others, and the shareholders are actually companies themselves, so the director of the shareholder. And I'm like, I was like, James, you did it again, and and I published it, and no one cared, and it was the funniest thing. I'm like, this is the best bit of legal content I've ever made.
I've had the exact same thing, man. I wrote a complete summary of the public health orders, what you can and can't do, with referencing and like things. Put it up on LinkedIn. 35 people saw it. Like, no one cared, and it was like the most. And James, so I went in on a Saturday. I sat down and I really, really put my time into it. Now, I've got one where there's a video of someone screaming obscenities, and I go, public health orders are laws, and they are for everyone watching. You can argue with me until you're sick. It is what it is. The Public Health Act allows public health orders. It's nothing to do with the Constitution. That video gets 20,000, 30,000 views, and you just go, like, you know what I mean? It's you don't get to. I mean, I haven't asked this. How did you get into your area of practice? Like, did you go to law school and deliberately want to be a commercial litigator?
No, the opposite. I was going to be a very cool tech and media lawyer. I was going to do like copyright and defamation and stuff. And so I did my PLT, my practical legal training at the ABC.
Wow.
And then I went into practice at a small firm in Newcastle. And then I went into practice into a suburban firm. Then I went back to that original firm. But through it all, I just sort of did the work that was put in front of me, and I sort of became a litigator, and I didn't do family and I didn't do crim. And so being a litigator who didn't do family, didn't do crim, was sort of the start. And then building and construction I did for a couple of years, but it didn't really grab me. And so
in front of the hammer?
Look, Justice Hammerschlag handed down this really pivotal decision in my career called Shanahan and Jatese, and I'm actually summarizing another of his judgments now.
Wow.
No, I've never run anything before him, and I think
terrifying man, but a brilliant legal mind.
Apparently a beautiful singing voice as well.
I would never. Wow.
Yeah, he sung at my former secretary's wedding. If you can make sense of that sentence. But apparently he's just the loveliest singing voice. But yeah, it's funny. So look, the judges I come before mostly these days are Justice Black and Justice Williams, Justice Reese, the sort of corporations list supremo judges. And so commercial litigation I sort of fell into because no one sent me any big defo matters or complex copyright advices. And so I just had to do some estate litigation and, some equity stuff.
It happens, isn't it? Like you never get to what you. I left the corporate world.
What was your experience?
Yeah, well, I left the corporate world. I was actually a banker, and I thought I'd be a regulatory and compliance lawyer. And I worked at this boutique firm that I didn't care for, and the only time I was happy was when I was in court. So we did commercial litigation for very wealthy people,
Nice.
like weird cases like, is an iconic view better than a amazing view? Tree diagram, stuff like that's bizarre.
Yeah.
My clients did the weirdest stuff. And I went to the bar thinking I'd get more of that work. And what I didn't realize naively is that if you have unlimited money, why would you brief a 1 year out, know nothing, like barrister? It's nonsense. You wouldn't do that. So I was sitting around, and Legal Aid, God bless them, took a chance on me and started giving me cases. And what wins cases is time. That's the only thing that wins cases, time and money. And money usually buys time, which is what wins the case. I mean, there's no other way to think about the legal system except through that sort of lens. And I kind of fell into crime. I started doing a lot of cases, and I had a couple of blowout cases which went really well. And before you know it, you've got to practice. But I think it's your practice. You don't choose your practice. Your practice chooses you.
100%. 100%. And so, Jahan, you would have got the question hundreds of times. I've got it a few times of like, hey, I'm in fourth year uni and I don't know what to specialize in. And it's like, do not worry, my dude. Just keep going. And then
go out there and try stuff. I mean, I think that there's, for people who are like trying to figure out what they want to do, the first question is, do you want to be a transactional lawyer or do you want to be a litigator? And the skill sets are so different. And there's not one that's better than the other, but you need to kind of know yourself. I mean, we as litigators, obviously, we are better. There's no question that we're better. You don't say that because it's tasteless and crass.
The joke I make is that transactional lawyers are all happy to brag about being transactional lawyers, but when it gets hard, they call you in anyway. And so it's like, well, you do the easy stuff, and when it gets hard, I come in anyway. So
the second that there is a dispute, it jumps from their desk to ours, and it's like, okay, well, hey, here's this problem that is now a problem because I made a choice back when. Deal with it. And it's so funny that you kind of develop this. I really want to take a minute to talk about, I guess, the attributes of a good lawyer. We've talked a lot about being articulate and being able to speak, but what about resilience? Like, what do you? I work a lot. I know you work a lot too. What do you do to wind down, if anything, or are you in the same boat as me? You love your job and therefore.
I think it's a mixture for me. So the resilience piece I think is really important because for some years, and I think the mindset is really available to you and I, of like fucking like no one's gonna outwork me. I'm not gonna sleep. I'm gonna be fucking sending emails at midnight. I'm gonna haunt your dreams. I'm a monster. And so I thought I was that for quite a long time, and it was sort of realizing that I was like, oh, hang on, I'm sacrificing something of myself by, so just to extend that, my fantasy was to be the guy who, when you saw my name in your email inbox, your stomach dropped. Because you knew that I was coming for you, and you knew that I'd be right, and you knew that if I wasn't right, I'd still fight you on it anyways. And so I thought I'm the biggest bad. I'm Batman, essentially. I'm Batman.
That's awesome.
I'll come find you and fuck you up. And of course, that's not a very healthy mindset if Batman has taught us anything. And so I'm now in a state where I try to be the most effective expert I can and know as much as I can, and to be as kind and empathetic as I can with opponents, with judges, with experts, with colleagues, with juniors, with seniors. And what I found is there's a real return on that because we all make fuck ups. You have and you will.
100%.
I will. I've probably made 5 today. And what you find is that if you're surrounded with people who are happy to see you, and even opponents who you can pick up the phone to and say, oh, g'day, Blogsy, look, let's just work this through. It's not only more effective for your clients, it's a happier experience in practice. And so that's a really long way, Jahan, of saying that I try to practice in a fairly kind, empathetic, mindful way. So I take pleasure from that. I'm a father of three, and I'm happily married. So that takes up some time, especially during lockdown. And I have hobbies like I co-host a weekly horror movie podcast,
No
which is
way.
yeah, oh
Dude,
yeah,
tell us about that. That's baller as hell. I didn't know
oh
that.
okay, yeah. So it's called Spooko. If anyone wants to follow it, it's a very unsuccessful TikTok account. If anyone wants to follow Spooko,
Please, if you're following me, follow
Spooko.
Spooko because that sounds sick.
I'm going to type it in here. I'm going to see if that works. Spooko. If anyone's happy to follow Spooko, I'd be really grateful.
I'm
But
following
essentially,
Spooko.
I'm too scared to watch horror films, right? And my best friend from high school, who's also a creative director and a advertising guy, loves horror films, and we're about 105 episodes in, and he's trying to convince me to watch one. And I'm too scared. I'm not going to watch one. So what he does is he reads the Wikipedia plot synopsis to sort of just take me through the plots of the film, so I can get gently spooked out. And his goal is that I'll get there. My New Year's resolution was to watch Candyman in the cinemas, right, and try not to freak out. So, look, the pandemic's weighing in on that, but at least I haven't seen Hereditary yet, because I feel like I won't be able to sleep if I do that.
I don't understand the need to put yourself in. I mean, and I'm in this situation. So my partner loves true crime, and she always
Yeah.
wants to watch true crime podcasts and this. And I'm always like, I don't. That's my life. Like, I don't want to watch a story about a murder because I'm not being paid for it. If I'm gonna watch a murder, it's because I'm someone's paying me to watch the footage.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that. And
Yeah.
I get you. I don't understand the appeal of being scared while feeling safe. My life is scary enough. I have enough anxiety. I've got taxes to pay. I get it.
The strongest argument, right, and the only one that appeals to me is this, that goes, it's a little bit touchy-feely, Jahan, so forgive me. We get one crack at being on Earth before you turn into dirt, is my view, and other people have other views, and they're welcome to those views. And so you are limiting your experience of that one life if you don't expose yourself to the full range of human emotion, including fucking complete terror. And I just don't accept that argument. But it's about as close as anyone's got to convincing me.
But, yeah, I mean, it's not a bad argument, but it has flaws, and I think for the same reason I don't expose my my naked skin to flame.
Yeah.
I don't need to. Don't need to understand. I mean, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, I hear you, and I think that certainly in my line of work, I don't need any more tension in my life. My life is already. In fact, before TikTok, I was going insane. It gave me this. What TikTok really did for me was it broke my day up, because I was living. I'd wake up at 6. I'd be at the office at 7. I'd get home by 7, and every day was the same. But with TikTok, you have like something to comment on. You have like a little conversation with people, and it kind of, I guess, changed the flow. And if we can teach people and educate people, because I'm exactly the same as you. I remember in my first, when I was a very junior instructing solicitor, this real bastard of a counsel basically said, my goal in any cross-examination is to make that person cry. And I was like, okay, well, let's take this at its highest.
Good work, champ. Yeah.
You've broken someone. That's not a. And I remember for a while thinking that's what you needed to do. And as I've gotten more and more, as a lawyer, I've realized, what? If that is just a horrific way to live your life. Like, it is just an ineffective. Firstly, it's ineffective in litigation because you're going to end up with everyone hating you. It's an ineffective way to live your life. And is that really what you want to be known for? And I, like you, have deployed a strategy of being as kind and caring as possible. Obviously, I protect my clients' positions, but if you make a mistake, and one of the stories I recall from and this is horrific, when I was a very junior solicitor.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, what happens is you get subpoenas, and the court stamps them, you get them, and you get these orders called uplift and photocopy, where you take them, you photocopy. It's very standard for a young junior. And what I did was I got the packet, I photocopied it, I put the photocopies into the bundle, and I returned them. So I didn't return the originals. I returned the photocopies.
Yes.
And the other side basically alleged that I was somehow involved in some sort of fraud, and they cross-examined me.
when you're a tiny little baby.
I'm some paralegal getting coffee, and it was just horrific. And I just remember, I would never in my wildest dreams think to do that. Like if some paralegal on the other side messed it up, I'd be like, hey, are you like, can you just assure me it's fine? They'll go yes, and that'll be the end of it. But I just remember and other stuff like that. Like I remember one where somebody filed a consenting appearance instead of an appearance. So you guys know an appearance is, hey court, I'm here and I'm going to have input. And a consenting appearance is, I'm here but I don't care. Let the other people fight it out. And we filed a consenting appearance instead of an appearance, even though we filed the defense and everything that went with it.
Yep.
And they were trying to get like summary judgment rather than just letting us fix the form. And it's just petty nonsense that takes up time and just really makes you lose faith in the system. Like people are trying to win off this pedantry gibberish rather than the actual argument. Have you had those situations?
I have, and in fact, I've also filed a consenting appearance in place of an appearance, and my opponent was like, "Oh man, I get it," and it's so funny without wanting to talk too much mindset-y stuff because it's not really where my head's at. But there's a degree of scarcity to that, like a degree of thinking, in order for me to win, you have to lose. And so you and I, like, there's only this limited pie. And so in order for me to get the most amount of pie, I have to stop you getting that. And it's just not accurate. And even if it was accurate, the way to get that pie is not to come fight me for it. It's to be like a more engaged and attractive person for the marketplace. And Jahan, it almost leads back to the generosity point, to you coming on here to say, look, I'm not necessarily getting clients from this, but this is my way of telling people about some of the things I know and hopefully helping them understand their rights. And I think, and again, it leads back to the early compliment I had for you. That's really transparent. Like you can pick up a fake, like I feel like we are all, you and I and everyone on here is pretty competent with social media. And I think you can pretty much pick up a scammer or a shyster in the contemporary world because they publish enough content for you to be like, nah. So your triumph, I say, is the volume. Fine, that's excellent, and I'm sort of in the same universe as that, but again, you're still dominating me on that. But it's also the integrity to it, right? It's the fact that whenever you're coming into my face to communicate with me, you're doing your best to communicate as clearly as you can so that I understand. And I think that's what jumps out. And again, coming back to the scarcity point, that is the abundance, sorry to use these stupid words, abundance mindset, where you're not saying, oh, if I tell someone else about this legal knowledge, then they'll know it and they won't come and send me some money. If you have that approach, you're probably not going to have a very exciting practice. Whereas my approach is I'll tell you everything I possibly can. I'm not going to sell you knowledge. I'll sell you access. So everything I know is on the internet. I've got tens of hours on YouTube of everything I know about the Corporations Act. And it's probably better than what I could come up with off the top of my head.
Absolutely.
And if you want to pay me money, you can pay me for access, for me to comment on your matter. But aside from that, I'm happy to come on and tell you everything I know about whatever decisions spring to mind. And I think it's that generosity, to come back to that scarcity generosity point, that informs your practice. It certainly does mine. And I feel like that's really transparent.
I 100% agree. And I have the same exact sentiment for you. I think that what I really, really like and what I see is this. Firstly, I don't know how other people run their business, and I don't care how other people run their business. Yep. I would rather do business with 5 people I like than 50 that I don't. That's the view that I have, and I would rather sit in my office and do nothing than to take on matters that I don't believe in with clients that cause me grief. Maybe a little bit of that happened in the past, but as you rise in prominence, you don't need to sort of deal with that. And professional services in general, it's a service industry. It's in the name. People forget that. Like the only thing that's different between the firm that's here and the one down the street is the people.
Yep.
Really.
Yep.
And the client doesn't care about the back end stuff because they just want their problem solved. They want it done in an effective way. They want people to communicate with them, and they want that sort of problem to be resolved. They don't care if you do it by way of notice of motion, by way of deed. They don't care. They want the cheapest, best solution, and they're scared. No one comes to a lawyer because life's great.
Yep.
Especially litigators, man. No one comes to us because, hey, I'm starting this business. Things are going. It's like, hey, this guy screwed me out of everything. Help me.
it's always a bad day
it's
when you have
always
to
a
go
bad
see other
day.
people together. Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
I really, what I see with you, and I try to mimic this as well, because I think it's so valuable, is I give the value up front. Like, there is, like, I am not holding back anything. Like, if you want to run your own case, I'll tell you how to do it. It is hard because in our line of work, we're always everything has a disclaimer. If this, then that, then this, then that. And
Yeah.
and you know, you always say, well, you know, this is general advice only. This is my opinion on it. And unless somebody pays you and you do it yourself, they don't get
Yeah.
the protection of your insurance. They don't have something they can stand behind. They can do it, but they may not understand why they had to do what
Yeah.
they did to get what they want.
And I think it really is the right approach, because it also equips you for engaging in the contemporary marketplace. Like, and what I mean by that is quite literally, you know, you and I are not just having a nice chat. We're not just publishing some social media content. There's also a potential client for you, a potential client referrer for me, like whatever it is, in the people in the room. And I think that I have become accustomed to, before I'm going to phone anyone, you know, I'm going to look at their website, I'm going to check if they're on the gram, and we're going to see if I can get any sense of who they are. And if you're the sort of person who's like, hey, just fill in my form with your question, and then, you know, see if I can send you an email, I'm not going to take the time to fill in that form.
100%.
I'm just going to leave a quick comment and say, hey, what about this? And if they get back to me with something useful, great. And if they don't, great too. I've learned something. And I feel like the business model for getting people through the door of a professional services firm, it's in the name, has changed. And that's because the model used to be rich old white guy at an ornate desk sitting in front of 1,000 leather-bound books saying, I'll tell you what's in these books if you pay me some money. Now, of course, everything in all those books is online. And so, you know, it winds back to my approach about access before. I say the business model is not, I'll tell you what's in those books. The business model is like, hey, here's all the books. Let me know if you want some help reading them, essentially. And that's the approach I take.
No, it's true, and it works. It used to be. I mean, even in the decade that I've been in the law, it used to be very much that people would like come, they would retain you, and then you'd build the trust. Then you'd show them what you're doing. Now you've got to show them. You've got to give all the value up front and say, this is how we do stuff here, and this is and I don't know about you, but have you found doing coffee and a case note, doing stuff like these conversations has kind of, I guess, pre-qualified clients for you? Like, they know what to expect.
Yep. It's the best. Because before you had a presence in the marketplace, and Jahan, I firmly suspect this is your experience, you would have to start with a sales pitch to go like, hey, yeah, this is me. I'm actually pretty good. Some of the things I've done are this, you know, here's a capability statement. And
I remember those.
Well,
The worst.
I haven't drafted one of those for a while, and that's a great privilege to be like, yeah, look, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty nice. Here's all my socials. If you like me, great. If you don't, that's also great. Let me know. You know, essentially is as far as it goes. But it also means that sales pitch time is taken up with strategy. So like immediately before this, and I'm very fortunate, I got a phone call from a business broker who's like, hey, just let me patch you into someone else, some other business broker with this really complex, fiddly SMSF structuring problem where there's a lost trust deed. And I actually know a little bit about that, and not all that many people know that much about it. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, I know a fair bit about that. Here's what I do, 1, 2, 3, 4. Send out a quick email, link to 2 videos where I've been like, here's exactly what you do if you've lost the trust deed. And that's all the work I have to do. And that'll be $60,000 to $80,000 for our firm, which is not like, it's not like I'm not saying we're taking over the world, but it's enough to keep the lights on, and it's a real return on the investment of being generous for years and years. And it's exactly what you're saying now in your practice.
It happens. Honestly, it's like, for example, when we do a plea of guilty, and I'm telling people how to write an apology letter, I link them to my TED Talk. I go, hey, this TED Talk teaches you how to do that. And rather than me having that conversation 650,000 times, I've got this digital avatar of myself that can share the value. And if they get that TED Talk, okay, now they've got the concept. I'm like you. You pay for access. Jahan, how does this apply to my situation? Okay, I'll help you. But the knowledge is being given for free. And what I really like is, you know what, the legal system shouldn't be this strange, mystified system. You need to be able to understand that there's these things called rights. They're inalienable in many cases, and you have to exercise them for them to exist. And the top end of town stuff that you do, I mean, I can imagine many. I can imagine, well, not even top end of town. That's an
Yeah,
exaggeration.
the middle end of town, middle end.
Yes, somewhere in town.
Yeah.
I can imagine that for somebody who's like, okay, I own 3 franchises of like a restaurant, and then but this guy has screwed me out of my shares in the fourth, and they see your thing, they go, wow, okay, cool, I can relate to that, and they come and they want to speak to you, and business lawyers in particular, and this is where you nailed it, because criminal lawyers in general, we're characters, whether you like us or not. But you're the first one I've seen that's hyper-human and approachable. Because when I think of business lawyer, I really do think of like mahogany desk, books, pull out the Corporations Act, which is the longest piece of legislation, bar the Tax Act, which is 7 times longer than that. And it's just this, you go, what the hell am I doing, man? And so having a human face to it, which what you've done, is awesome. And it's inspired generation. I mean, guys, for anyone watching this, let me be clear. I copied him. He didn't copy me. I copied him. I saw his stuff. I thought it was great. And we kind of come at it from the different angles. But it's all about giving access to everyone. And by the way, if you're not following him, follow him. If you're not following me, follow me. Just follow.
Yes.
Because this is the kind of content TikTok should be about. You know, people have intelligent conversations.
I feel like TikTok can also be about, you know, like everything. Like, I feel like that's one of its great glories of, like, you know, you can have grown-up TikTok where you sit down and talk about the state of the legal profession, and then you can have, you know, chef TikTok where you talk about what's your favorite way to braise a, you know, brisket or like, or whatever. Right. That it's sort of like impossibly customizable is not the word, but it's like every niche is served. Like, there are also stupid chats about the law, which I think you know enough about happening on TikTok.
I mean, what has amazed me, and I don't know if it happens in your line of work, because at least you have concepts that are really hard to grasp, like promissory estoppel. That's a really hard concept to wrap your brain around. You've done a very good job of explaining it in many of your case notes. But in my line of work, criminal justice, people just assume things based on law and order, SVU, based on my cousin said this and that, and they will argue with you tooth and like. Forget I have a law degree. Put that to the side. That doesn't mean anything. What about the decade of daily legal work where I have gone to every court in this state and argued every single crime? You've never done that. Please, I'm not part of some conspiracy. I'm not a government plan put here by the shadow attorney general to like trick people. And that's what I don't think people get. Like, they think their ignorance is the same as your experience. Yeah. Have you had that happen in your world?
Yeah. I'm fortunate in that it doesn't often happen to me because the areas I get into have a reasonably high barrier. Like, you're not going to come to me if you're not already the shareholder in a company or a director of a company. So, or the beneficiary of a reasonably large estate or sort of whatever it is. Like you're going to have an element of like, yeah, okay, I co-own, you know, this block of developments and we've got a little bit of a fall apart of the way we're going to develop it. So I have the great fortune of having a client base that come in reasonably competent. The challenge, though, then for me is that when I'm trying to market using social media and whatever else, I'm probably not really trying to market directly at my potential clients.
You're B2B.
Yeah, well, like I'm trying to market at their accountants, at their financial advisors, at non-exec directors, at other lawyers who are out of specialty. And that's actually where I get most of my work from the internet, is other lawyers being like, man, I know you're on top of this. I've got to refer someone off to you. And it's that conflict work. And, you know, Jahan, it's the same for you of like, well, do you know anyone who knows crim? And my answer in your absence is no. Well, but you know, it's just facts. Like, I just don't. And so what I'd probably end up doing is calling like a clerk from some chambers I like to be like, what firms brief your best guys? And that'd be about the extent of it. And so it's a valuable and generous thing you do by sharing these things, and I'm pleased to hear there's a return on it for your practice.
No, I'm blessed, and I think that one thing I want to I'm sure I can speak for you on this. I don't think people understand how much we as lawyers genuinely want to serve our clients. Like you know, we maybe there are sharks and bastards out there. I've dealt with some, but by and large, we genuinely want to help our clients. And it's really when a client comes to you with a problem you can't solve, and they go, help me, because you're a lawyer and you know more about the law, which is true. But they'll come to me with like a maritime law problem. Now, I don't know Captain Hook. I got no idea. What am I going to do? And you sit there and you worry for this person because you know if you give a referral and that person bungles it, they're going to hate you. And it's very stressful. It's really, really stressful. What I say about solicitors is we're just secretaries for people with complicated problems. That's all that we are.
Yeah.
And our job is to sort of put the pieces together and sort of fix the problem that is complex. And I hear you 100% with that if in the absence of knowing someone, it's stressful for me. Exactly right. I got to call Forbes. Hey, whose briefs what? Who do I talk to? And you don't know if that person's any good. You don't know if you just are they their second cousin. So it's hard.
Yeah. And that's the glory of this project, Jahan, of being able to see the way you understand what's going on. And again, look, I'm very happy to sit around patting you on the back and patting me on the back all evening, but I think there's a degree to which it's true for everyone. Like if you're like a natural wine producer, like I'm interested to learn about how you produce natural wine, and then if you're going for the Australian, like Count Bacula's in here, like, I don't know if he's going for the Australian deadlift record or something like that, but I'd be interested to find out. And then other people are doing boring stuff I don't care about. But, it's a really sort of democratized way for us to interact, I think, and a way for people to scratch their own itches. And it's just really nice for me. I'm certain it's nice for you to feel like you're a part of someone's like media menu of what they consume day to day.
I love what I never understood, which shocked me, was how if I see something I don't like, I ignore it or I move on. I don't understand the amount of people who engage with content that irks, upsets, or pisses them off. And like, genuinely, people get really into it and upset and emotional, and it just, I don't understand it. Like I think that as a litigator too, you develop this. Unless I'm being paid to deal with a problem, I'm not going to deal. I refuse to deal with your problem for free.
It's funny though. There's a degree of empathy you have of like, wow, you're like trying to hurt my feelings. I don't give a fuck about you. Your life can't be amazing. And so it's like, I'm not about to, like, I'll probably leverage your comment to make some content from it potentially, but I'm not really too excited to go in on someone who's like, exactly as you say, it doesn't occur to you or I naturally to be like, fuck this idiot. But if someone does that to you, there's an element of like, oh, that's not a happy life being expressed. That's not an exciting worldview being shared. And so I try to balance the empathy with the leveraging them for gags.
It's the best. It's when someone starts a flame war. I mean, like, why? I mean, I am vicious for a living.
Yeah.
Why would you? I mean, it's like I'm a comedian with a microphone, dude. Don't do this to yourself. It's not gonna end well.
Yeah, John. I don't want it with you. Like, I'm a former battle rapper. And I don't want it with you. I'm fine. I'm like, yeah, Jahan, you're all right. You're all right, champ. You just,
So what is a battle rapper? So like you like back and forth?
Yeah, so like every 30th TikTok in mine is like me just fucking around with some beat makers on TikTok, which is fun. But yeah, so I used to battle back in the day,
That's sick.
In like the boom boom click, the boom click. And I was 6.5 out of 10, 7 out of 10. That was all right.
Dude.
But it was good fun. And there's that performative element. But yeah, if you want to start a flame war with Jahan, my advice is no, don't.
No, look, I and the other thing is I have the benefit of time. It's just insane. It's insanity that you would start this, and it's insanity. And who has the time? I mean, really. I think we're coming up on the hour. Guys, please. Do you have 5 more minutes?
Yeah. Everyone follow Jahan.
No, follow us both, right? You've got plenty of followers. They're unlimited. Follow us. And we can keep, Now, I thought we would get a TikTok hat at around 1920. Have you received any merchandise yet? Have you been receiving hats, cats?
No, I don't even have subtitles on my fucking thing.
Really?
I'm here in the dark. TikTok don't care about me.
Dude.
I'm just a little old commercial. Oh, it's so tough for me, Jahan.
No, I haven't gotten anything yet. Actually, that's a lie. That's a lie. I received some free cider and a cool shirt. I did get that. And God bless him. And I drank his cider on a live, and it was delicious. And now I buy his cider. So really, he got accustomed to really.
So from TikTok?
Yes, somebody on TikTok said you're cool. I make cider, and he gave
Well,
me.
Count Bakula sent me a case of Resh's long necks. Sorry, I thought it was from TikTok, the entity TikTok itself. No. Count like the big man, the world's strongest man in the comments down here. Got a lovely case of Resh's pills, and that was bloody satisfying. So that was magnificent. I
thought this influencer thing, by now you and I'd be getting free. I thought we'd be Boats and Hoes comes to mind, really. I thought they'd be flying us with supermodels, and there'd be all sorts of stuff because we're mildly entertaining and can tell average legal anecdotes.
No, Jahan. That's like I'm aware you're having a joke at your own expense. I'm definitely in it to feel like I'm in it for the same reason as you. I know you're having a joke at your expense. To feel like we're making a genuine warm impact, whether it's a silly joke from you being mean or me being mean to a troll, or whether it's laughing at my stupid old man freestyles on TikTok or whatever it is. There's a degree where I take huge pleasure in the fact that I get a chance to be in other people's days, and that's really special. And anyone who wants it with me can fucking come get it as well. That's sort of the other element.
I mean, you strike me as someone who's naturally quite kind, affable, and I'm actually quite conflict averse. My natural instinct isn't to get into it. Have you found that people take your kindness as weakness?
Not anymore.
Yeah, good. I love that.
It's a funny thing, right? And I think the kindness as weakness thing is a degree your fault and my fault, like as the kind person of like, we need to, and again, gosh, we get touchy-feely. We've got touchy-feely a few times, Jahan. It's good.
Yeah.
We should record this.
In a different life, you'd have the mustache and I'd be telling people about trust deeds.
Let's do it. Let's do it. But I think there's an element where like my boundaries are spot on these days, and I'll let in whatever I want to let in, and I'll shut out whatever I want to shut out.
I love that.
I'm pretty on it. Hey, Jahan, will you have the recording of this?
Yeah. After this live, it's going to stay for I think a week, and then I will find a way to. We can throw this on YouTube. I reckon this was sick. In fact,
can you rip the audio and I'll put it on my podcast?
100%. And if you guys, would you guys want another one of these in like a fortnight or so? We're both busy dudes, but I've thoroughly enjoyed this.
Yeah. Rap out on some merch, dancing. Yeah, man. Like Jahan, you're a compelling dude to talk to. Like I'm about it. I'm having a good time.
I would love to. I mean, it's funny that we have, because the Sydney legal fraternity is quite small. I'm surprised we didn't run into each other. But you're now in Canberra, are you?
No, I'm in Sydney, but I live in the Central Coast. But we're sort of a national firm, so I do spend a little bit of time in Canberra for the clown dunking on the Canberra partners of national law firms, which is
nice.
which is a hobby I enjoy. It's good fun.
Honestly, beating someone who's being a jerk really feels great. It actually doesn't. I mean, it doesn't feel that good when you beat someone and they've been nice, and you walk out and you shake their hand. You go, look, we're there, but for the grace of God. But when someone's been a real smart ass, and I've actually found that the more aggressive they are, usually the weaker the case.
Yep. Because what they're not doing, and again, gosh, touchy-feely, Jahan, we're there. The more aggressive you are, the more scared you are about your position. And if you let the argument speak for itself, you don't have to say it very loudly. But if you're not particularly confident in it, then you're trying to throw me off, or like you're trying to be overly confrontational, then the element of like, no, like, why are you doing that? That's just weird. And unlike
Yeah, no.
Well, John, let's just agree now. Let's do it again in a fortnight.
Done. In a fortnight, I'm gonna put up another one, guys.
Yeah. Please
follow Coffee and a Case Note. The dude makes exceptional content. I've thoroughly enjoyed having this discussion. I think it's actually it's really, really good. Please tell everyone there's some real valuable content on TikTok. LinkedIn. Oh, James, if people want to hear more about you, where's your
Oh, look, I say you should be able to find me anywhere with coffee and a case note. So if you're on your podcast provider, bang. YouTube, bang. Twitter, bang. Instagram, bang. LinkedIn, bang. Facebook, bang. I should be anywhere you chuck in coffee and a case note. I'd be really grateful if you joined the adventure, such as it is. Because it's great.
If you're part of my following, you join the adventure. Learn about the side of the law. Learn about that side of the law. Learn about those cases.
Yep.
It's incredibly complicated stuff that's been given to us in digestible chunks. It's awesome. Just so you know, James, are you doing one for Workpack and Rosso?
So sorry,
have you done a case note for Workpack and Rosso yet? The new High Court decision on employment law.
No, I don't. I gotta touch High Court. I don't touch employment. That's like grown up stuff. That's
gibberish and lies.
Up to me. Is that any good?
Dude, it's a great case. It's a great case that talks about casual employment. We've got 2 more minutes. What makes you pick the cases you pick? Is it because they're in your subject area?
Yeah, 100%. Complete greed and selfishness of like, it'll be good to know this next time I'm going toe to toe with someone in the area.
Nice.
So I can actually say, you can't name an oppression case I haven't read relevant to my clients that I haven't read in the last 5 years.
I love that.
And it's just, again, it's the sort of confidence. Like, as I say, I used to have that manufactured Batman confidence of like, yeah, what? And now it's like, well, there isn't one I haven't read. There isn't one I haven't understood. And in fact, I've gone and boiled down my understanding in an approachable way on some videos. You can go watch them. And so it's just a matter of fact sort of arrival. It's a nice feeling.
Have you ever referred to one of your coffee and a case notes in a email to the other side yet?
No, but I'm terrified of someone beating me on a point that I've taught them. It's like, got you on the very thing.
Yeah, look, I used to do this bail strategy called the Kalantar cartwheel, where we would set up basically all of the spokes of the cartwheel, and a judge said, "Mr. Kalantar, your cartwheel won't work here." It's just like,
it works. It works.
Guys, please, it was James, bottom of my heart, man. You're a legend. Thank you. And when the world reopens, I will actually see you in person. I think we'll be real friends, not just manufactured TikTok friends. Guys, follow our stuff. This stuff
I'm down for
baller
both.
as hell. He's a baller, and he's a battle rapper. Bye, guys. I'll give you the thing, and I'll call you later.
Cheers, man.
Peace.
Bye.